And welcome. Morning, Cons. Good to see you.
Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Scooter. Morning, everyone.
Morning,
Morning,
Ken.
Monique.
Morning.
Morning, everyone.
Morning, sir.
How's ever?
Good morning, all.
Morning, Ken.
Morning, Wayne.
Hey, morning. Ones that got away. My goodness. How many?
Too many.
Colleagues, thank you so much for joining. Today we have Monique Gillespie, who's our current president. So I'm going to go through her bio and then she'll go through the presentation straight away. Monique graduated from UKZN. It was UND then, and has actively practiced architecture for over 30 years. She's the founder and principal of a small but busy practice based in Durban North and has a portfolio of projects spanning a wide range of building typologies and sizes. Monique's field of interest lie in best practice models, sustainability and the environment, heritage, professionalism, and the growth of the profession through mentorship. Monique has served the SAIA KZN Regional Committee since 2018 and is current president of SAIA KZN and vice president of SAIA National. She brings a commitment to service and a willingness to bring meaningful change and support to the profession. Madam President, over to you.
Thanks, Guru. I thought long and hard about, Skuru's been chasing me to do this practice breakfast, haven't you, Skuru? I've been dodging and diving, but he finally pinned me down. And I've been thinking about what did I want to speak about on this forum. So instead of focusing on my journey, which I think will bore everyone. And I mean, there's a separate, even bigger topic called the Institute. I thought, let me focus on something that is a little bit painful for everyone. But I think it's definitely worth discussing. So I recently thought, okay, well, we've been in practice for quite a long time, and it hit me that we've done an enormous body of work that's never been built. So that really it really got me thinking. So okay, how do I do this? A bit about me. Skuru's covered it in essence. I grew up in Pretoria, came down to Durban to study, and when I finished studying, I thought about going back to Pretoria, where my parents lived, or staying in Durban, and that took about 5 minutes worth of consideration. So here I am, 35 years later. I started my practice in 2004. And I realized recently that last year was the 20-year anniversary, and I said, oh, we should have celebrated. And then I realized, oh, hang on, we were too busy surviving. So it's like saying to a family who can't afford bread, oh, why didn't you get a cake for your birthday? So I've been in practice for a number of years, and I think I can't possibly talk about myself and my practice without mentioning my business partner, Sipho, who joined me in 2008, I think it was, as a fresh-faced newly graduated from DUT, 23-year-old. Shame, look how Madala he is now. And then, of course, my darling husband of almost 32 years. I think the men in my life need a medal or a sainthood. Definitely, I'm a bit much. Shame. So enough about me. This is what I would like to talk about: working at risk. And it's a sensitive subject, I realize that. And I first of all would like to just say that we take full responsibility for all the decisions. But in the spirit of true feminine vulnerability, I want to go through some of the projects that we did not, we were either paid nothing or we were paid way too little for, and just unpack that and how the decisions came about for us to do that work, and then just some reflections on why. So yeah, there is an elephant in the room, and we're all going, what elephant? I think every single one of us, well, unless you really, really, really are an exceptional practitioner, and I do believe that there are people out there, I think we've all been drawn into that trap, the working at risk trap, the please could you just do, and I need to see what this piece of land is capable of, giving a return on. I mean, the reasons are countless, but anyway, yes, and the elephant is that big. So, just in case by the end of this all, you think that we haven't done any work that's actually been completed, because you could be forgiven for thinking that. Proof of life. Yes, we have done completed work. We have done projects. We've done quite a few of them actually, and a lot of our work is very unsexy. We do a lot of compliance work. It's very necessary. So I say to my interns, this is the other side of architecture. There's the side that you learn at varsity, which is all very focused on design and design decisions and looking fantastic. And then there's the other side of architecture, which is related to do things work and are they compliant? So we've done a lot of compliance work for food stores, a lot out in the rurals. So we've, cash and carries and rhino stores, where sometimes we visited them and you think, oh my word, they're selling food from here. And those poor staff, they're sharing one toilet, and they're sitting in a canteen the size of a shoebox with someone's shoe poking out of the locker behind them. So we do quite a bit of that work, but I'm going to just run through some of the projects that we've done that are a lot more visually appealing. So we've done a very grand gatehouse. We've done quite a lot of work in the Romead Business Park. We did the design code. We helped with the urban planning, and the developer contractor, it was a turnkey, really wanted to create what he called the best business park in Westmead. So we did the Meteo headquarters, which we won a special mention for. Kingspan, which was a tiny little warehouse, 400, no, not 400, it's about 1,000 square meters. And they wanted this warehouse to be an iconic building. And I said to my client, you do realize a warehouse is a block, it's a square. So anyway, we rose to the challenge and did something quite interesting. The client was Kingspan, so we took the wall and flipped it over the top. A tiny little site, We did the Refco, which was an upmarket showroom, and Earthline. This is one of our favorites. The decision to run the beam across, we were looking at getting the views there's some distant views to a hillside, and but it was facing west. And so yeah, we love the shadows and the effects that came through from this. We did the remodel, complete remodel of the Eastman Spa, which is the spa up at the top on Umhlanga Rocks Drive. That project took us about 10 years to complete because there were a lot of purchasing of land and rezonings, and it was a tiny little grocery store with very little parking. And then we've done some heritage work, and we did a hotel in 2010, which, I mean, the construction, I think, lasted 9 months. So it was actually amazing. We got it ready for the 2010. And some residential work earlier on. We don't do too much now. And then some interior spaces. And yeah, so that sort of touches on, yes, we have done work that we've completed, but we're going to focus on the work that never got built. So the first project I want to just look at is offices in the Kloof area. A friend of mine worked for a developer, and they had this piece of land that they'd already had rezoning for. I'd already gone through all the different requirements, and it was just sitting there waiting for development. So she asked us to put together a proposal to test the ground on what they could achieve on this. So it was a very nice site with a slope to it, views over the golf course, and we were told it was they wanted to do it for one tenant, but we thought let's divide it up so that it is more flexible. So you could do one tenant, or I think those 5 different tenants. And initially we did a hand-drawn proposal, which the client loved. The developer, he absolutely loved. Please, can we take it a step further? Because this was a big project. It was about 3,000 square meters of office space. We thought, okay, let's bring it into our CAD package. That's the site plan. That's ground floor. And then the parking the parking terraces and steps as it goes down towards the one side of the site. That was the first floor. And we did some 3Ds because he really needed to see what this was going to look like. So we did some 3Ds. The brief was it needed to have very clean lines, very contemporary feel to it. So you could see we were sun controlling and, doing all sorts of things like that. And then they was testing the water for tenants, and they couldn't find a big tenant who would take all the space. And then I think they kind of ran out of energy looking for tenants I mean, it was very able to split it into different components. And then the company started going through all sorts of financial difficulties, and the appetite just dwindled, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So yeah, so that was that project. It was disappointing, and especially since it was a sizable project. And but you put your big girl panties on and you march on. Okay, so I said we did quite a bit of work in the Romy Business Park, and this one site we did 3 quite well developed proposals on. I mean, really, really. Looking back, it's like, how did you manage to do that? But it was in our defense, it was over a number of years. It wasn't all just on top of each other. We started this Romy Business Park with the developer in 2007, starting with the urban planning. And then in 2010, we did our first project. And then one of the sites, Unit 9, there was a potential buyer who they really wanted a space. They wanted quite biggish offices. And then they wanted a space where they could bring their interlink trucks. So they needed a large turning circle and service them. But the business park didn't want to see all of that, so we needed to screen that. And the client said to me, he likes curves. He wants something different. He wants something with a lot of curves. So we gave him a lot of curves. As you can see to the west, there's a riverine and these are fairly flat platforms. There's a vegetation and a riverine, so we focused on that. And these are the lower ground. There was a bit of a slope to the one side and the first floor. And you can see from this section on the side here, we were bringing in some interesting elements. And then, of course, the client is, I can't understand the plan. I can't, can you show what this will look like? So we did some 3Ds. And we had a lot of fun with curved walls leaning this way and curved walls leaning that way, making a big, sort of very strong screen, which internally there's a ramp that comes up inside that space to take up the change in level. Yeah, we just did these. We just refreshed these recently, and looking out onto the forest, screening it from the cars, giving it a bit of a tough industrial look, but with a bit of a flair to it. And the client loved it. But then they hit some snag with their operations up in North Africa, and then they decided no, they actually didn't have the funds. They tried we did a couple of other sort of mini proposals for them, but then the bank wouldn't lend them the money because we were undeveloping the site. So that kind of fell away. Then there was another client who bought the site, and they were furniture manufacturers. And they already owned one of the buildings. They'd already owned and developed one of the buildings in the park. So they were a proven client, and they were very interested in doing an extension to their furniture manufacturing with offices. So we maximized the space on the site with delivering trucks and offices on double story. So on the left is the ground floor, on the right is the first floor. And this is what it looked like. The buildings needed to have quite a high aesthetic component for this business park. So we had a lot of fun with this, as you can see. And then the client, they loved it. Of course, they loved it. They wanted to do it. But then there was an issue with the international furniture markets, and then they postponed it, and then they postponed it, and they postponed it for a number of years. And then they realized, no, they weren't going to be able to do this. And so that fell away. And so obviously we were quite disappointed. And having gone quite far with this, I think we even got to sort of preliminary submission drawings. Another prospective buyer came along for the site, and we'd already done like 3 different buildings for him in the park. and he owned the adjacent site. So he owned the platform 8, and that one was already built with a party wall between the two properties. So we maximized the site, reduced the office component. He didn't need such a big office component. And this is the ground floor. And the first floor, it's a bit of a different layout with a drive in and a drive out. And we did some 3Ds. Now, this was interesting because we trusted this client so much, having done quite a lot of work with him. And the developer was very, yes, no, he's definitely going to buy this. The papers are in front of him. And he said to us, well, we started just with a zoning sort of diagram and showing him what we'd done before. No, he wants the reduced offices. So then we did a concept for him, and it's like, no, he really needs to see what this looks like. He needs to see it. So, and he went down into the fact that the operations manager needed an office right here so he could see everything coming and going. He was delving into the whole detail of it. And we responded as such. And then there was some hiccup with the electricity supply to the site. And then he just decided, no, he wasn't going to buy it. And we were actually quite hurt by this one because we'd gone ahead on instruction from the developer and the potential buyer. And the buyer, who is an incredibly wealthy man, he really is. I think his VAT payments are in the hundreds of millions. And we said, well, can we get compensated for this work that we've done? Oh no, there were no promises made. So yeah, this one we felt quite keenly. So yeah, 3 projects down, and then eventually the site was sold to someone completely different. In the meantime, in the interim, the developer had passed away suddenly of a heart attack. And the new owner has got a very close friend who's an architect, and he obviously wanted to go. He has got an existing relationship, and he wanted to use that architect. So this one has disappeared completely off our books. CCI Canteen. Now, CCI is a call center, and they've got big offices all over the place, thousands and thousands of employees. This was for their existing premises in Umhlanga, right near the park, that very fancy park. And this one, this was a very strange one. We were going in as a team with the contractors. Now the contractors had an existing relationship with their COO, and we met with the client. We did stakeholder engagement. We put together a brief. We went through a whole lot of processes. They wanted to upgrade their canteen because for them it's all about bums and seats. But they also recognize they needed to spend some money on staff wellness and staff, looking after their staff, because those call center jobs are extremely stressful. So again, we were going in as a turnkey. We met with the client. We needed to do a proposal. We were given previous drawings, and we put together a layout. It was very much an internal project. So this is our proposal, and we went as far as doing fairly detailed drawings on plan. Their existing canteen was a disaster. It really was. So this is the existing canteen. You can see some people tried to do a little bit of a design something. They had a cash point, the cash point with its back to the shop fronts, cutting off circulation from the one side to the other. It's like a long, narrow space. They had in the far distance under the purple pepper, there's a servery, and those blocks behind there are actually blinds to another shop front. So they're turning their back to another shop front. They had this very, very strange little edifice right in the middle of the space that cut off, again, circulation from the one side to the other without really adding any benefit. So this is what we proposed. This is now these shop fronts that you can see over here are the shop fronts that had the servery in front of them. So we moved the servery back onto the kitchen with access directly from the kitchen, which makes sense. We created they had a self-service kitchen because a lot of people bring their lunch and just need to heat it. But the space was completely, and it was just so way too small, completely undersized for the needs. So there were massive queues there. So we created a little self-service kitchen for heating your food. On the other side, we kept the one servery for snacks and chips and things like that. And then this was the outside space. Shame, hey? Imagine you're sitting there in a call center, listening to people shouting at you, and this is where you come and have your lunch. So we turned that into that. And we turned that into that. You've got this very tall space. So we brought down some pergola type structures to bring a more human feel to the space, very much outdoors, so like a big veranda, and that sort of space to that sort of space. And very excited, very excited. They just needed to be, everyone loved it. Everyone loved it. There just needed to be a final sign off from the big boss. And we sent all our information through, including we went as far as doing fairly detailed shop fitting drawings for each of the components. We'd split it down into phases. We did detailed shop fitting drawings, and we got a call. Our contact, COO is in London and he's with the big boss. Can we send the information? So we sent all the information through, all these lovely pictures, plus all the information, because he just needed the sign off. And then silence, and more silence, and more silence, and we couldn't get hold of him. And then Sipho was attending some function recently, and he walked past this canteen, and you can actually, if you're walking past, because it's at a lower level, the lights were on, it was nighttime. He came back and he says, you know what, they did the work. They didn't do it quite to the level that we did it, but they used the space planning, they used the concept, they solved all the issues. They literally followed the space planning proposal that we did. So yeah, that one, I still have to do a yoga session to calm down whenever I think of that one. I'll definitely have to take my blood pressure pill after this. Okay, then not too many of them, but we do have the odd smaller project. And this one we took on because it really was a very special little house, and it was around the corner. So this is the existing house. On the right is just some inspiration. A little heritage house at a very strange angle to the site, which is probably there before they put sites together. And it had been extended and extended at the back. So the house itself, the pyramid roof, hip roof ends here, if you can see my cursor. And then the rest of it is this long lean-to with a funny little veranda area, and like a carport structure, and then a driveway that comes up. There's a retaining wall at the front, about 1.5 meters. And then there's a driveway that extends all the way up the side of the building, and you park under a car park, and then you walk through and then into, and then there's a funny little old servants' quarters at the back here, and an existing pool. So we were very excited about this project. And in all fairness, we did get paid. We were paid for the project. It was actually brought to us by a landscape artist, Ross Devitt from Earth Landscapes. They came to him first and he said, oh, you know what, if I'm going to do a landscape here, we really need to look at the building side of things. So that's why there's a lot of focus, obviously, here on the landscape. So as I said, we were paid for this project. The client's budget was, I think, 1.5 million. But they had big plans, and they wanted this and they wanted that, and we had a brief. We had a brief from the client. And I kept saying to them, no, we must get some costing on this. And they kept saying, no. Let's do it further. Let's do it further. And they kept adding this and they kept adding that. And we kept saying this is going to add to the cost. But just looking at the design. So what we did with this is we demolished some of this back section here. And then we took a big veranda. Scurry, can you see my cursor?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, good. So we took a big structure here that we lifted up and tilted so that you could get light coming in through a clear story along this side here. We then put in a concrete section over here, which would then form the junction between the existing buildings. So again, remember the pyramid roof, the hip roof ends here. So that's a lean-to down, then concrete, then a skylight, and then a lean-to in the other direction. I'm just checking time. And we excavated the front, so there was no retaining wall at the front, and then put a garage here so that you're not driving up and parking there. So we put like a proper driveway entrance, and then walk up through a garden to the main entrance through here, open planned up kitchen lounge. Whereas if you can see before, this was the kitchen, and a family room and a back deck, and yeah, so you get the picture. They loved it. So we went further onto stage 3, and that looks like this, which is, you can see it's the same concept. We don't often, sometimes we amend things a bit, but we find that our first concept tends to be fairly spot on, and then it's more development that happens. So we're really playing with the levels here. So this is what it looks like. You can see there's the pyramid, almost pyramid roof with this long lean-to thing. There's a total mess at the back here with the carport. And forgive the distortion. We did some renders yesterday and we couldn't get the thing right. But you can see at the back here, much shorter lean-to, then with the concrete, and then lifting that up so that you get light coming in through that side there. So this is the front garden this is like a short wall on top of a retaining wall. We changed that to that. You can see the house. I mean, isn't it sweet? It's so gorgeous. and, playing with the levels properly. And we turned this back section with a small little veranda-y thing into that. So a much wider, proper entertainment space that engages with the property. And this was their entrance. I mean, you parked in the car park, walked through the fence around to the back to that with a proper entrance, screening off. We wanted people to be guided in there, so we screened it to the veranda itself, but this is the veranda on the other side. We even did submission drawings. We did a MAFA. We got a MAFA approval. We did submission drawings. We got approval. We did construction details. We did tender drawings. We went out to tender. Tenders came in at 4 million. Client had, 4.5. The client had 1.5. And you know what, this was right in the middle of COVID. So we didn't feel we could go back to our client, who were the loveliest people you can possibly imagine, and say to them, well, you actually need to pay us for a 4.5 million rand project instead of a 1.5 million rand project. So, the problem is that this was, I think, long term, it would probably pay out. And they were actually planning on staying there, but then with COVID coming in, they weren't sure about their future. So if you were planning on living there for the next 20 years, you'd get a return on your investment. But they were concerned about putting in that sort of money into that area, quite rightly so. So anyway, that one just died a very slow, painful death. And it's painful because, oh my word, we so much wanted to do this project. We loved it. It was just so gorgeous. Okay, on to the next one, the YMCA. Who could resist the YMCA? They do so much good, so much good. And my friend Lindsay, who had a contact with them, she came to us and she said, you know what, they've got this big, they've got a big convention happening in Thailand. And they've got this big, I think a lot of people will know the YMCA property up in Pietermaritzburg. It's huge and underutilized, and they were in such financial difficulties, such major financial difficulties, especially with regard to rates and lights and water and everything. And they wanted some posters and promotional material because they wanted to go hunting for funding to develop their property in Thailand. So again, we said, look, just cover the cost of some of our time and printing and everything, and then we put together these posters. So again, remembering this is for Thailand and telling them about what we do here. So it was looking at where we are, Africa, South Africa, Durban, the site, all about the YMCA. This is the property itself. So there's a little garage, not a garage, a fueling station right here at the bottom of the site. I don't know who did the property negotiations for them, because that was excised some time ago, a few years ago, and it was leased. It was excised and leased to the fuel station for a total amount of 2 million rand. They probably do 2 million rand a day on that petrol station. The poor YMCA got screwed over so badly there. There's a funny existing building at the front here which blocks the existing student res, which is sitting this this greenish color thing here, an existing gym, which is very well utilized. The rates are very reasonable. Which we then extended. We demolished these little buildings in front. We upgraded the existing res. We put in new student reses, because there's a condition on the property that it can only, on the title deed, it can only be used for youth or sporting activities. So you can't sell it as a shopping center. You can't use it as a hotel or anything like that. It has to be youth and sporting. We increased the gym, turned it into like a really big, great fitness center. We put in an aquatic center, which, I mean, big plans. There's an existing hall with other activities, and we extended that. So you can see we did a whole urban planning scheme for them. This is the existing, so it's in good condition. The existing res, which we did a much bigger front for, did a lot of branding for them. This is the existing gym, which looks very tired, and we gave it a whole new facelift. Student reses coming up, and this is again the back of the gym, which we added to, bringing lots of color and vibrancy into it. And yeah, I mean, no, you really can't resist them. I mean, look at it. The work that they do is so amazing. Anyway, they didn't get any funding for that. And there were various other attempts to raise funding to do the proposal. They then looked at leasing or selling the land to a property developer who was very keen. The problem with the sorry, the problem with the YMCA, they've got such heavy structures, nobody can make a decision. So it just kind of just withered. But it's still a really nice development that can happen somewhere along the line. Oops. Then we go on to our pest resistance, the Lilongwe Lifestyle Center, where we really, really, really did go OTT. This was again, it was brought to us by Ross Nevitt, and they'd approached him first with regard to doing a landscape design. They purchased a property in just outside of Lilongwe, which is in Malawi, and they wanted to develop a full-on lifestyle center. This was initiated by the patriarch of the family, whose daughter was going to get married, and he looked around, and being a Muslim family, and they have these big weddings, and he couldn't find a venue that was suitable. And that got him to thinking that he'd like to leave a legacy behind, which was something really upmarket and also profitable, because in Malawi, when you have any wedding, there's like a good 1,000 people who come. So the brief was to do it was a really big site, to do a combination of retail, restaurant, conference center, wedding venue, some accommodation. And we visited Malawi, well, I did, Ross and I, and we were just so blown away by the fabrics there. This is just a montage of all the different prints and everything. It's just absolutely so beautiful. The colors, they unfortunately, they bake their own bricks, which is not ecologically very friendly, but they've got these beautiful, rich tones and these colors. And this is the site. So there is a riverine that runs along the north side of the site. It's long and narrow. The access is from quite a busy road that goes on to the next city along here. So we came in and we basically wound along the back of the site, almost creating a spine. And then off that, we started with our retail area here and playground and everything, then coffee shops, then restaurants and beauty spa. And linking to conference center, which is this section here, so various size rooms. And then this is the wedding venue, which could seat, he wanted 700 people, so it seats 700 people, with the idea that combined with this area here, it would total 1,000. And he wanted, again, tied in with the landscaping. He wanted a very definite wedding processional Instagram-worthy space. And then some accommodation that we tucked into the side here for conference or wedding attendees. He loved it. Of course, he loved it. I mean, then it was, we were engaged, and again, we were paid to do a master plan. So our feeling was, okay, this is a master plan. We did a schedule of accommodation. We did a whole section on the look and the feel, inspiration images. He really, he was engaging with the banks and the Minister of Culture and and tourism, and they really needed to see what this looked like. Can we take it a bit further? So we thought, oh, okay, we'll take it a bit further. And in our defense, this also happened. This was 2021 or so, and we were again in the middle of COVID, and the work that we had on was very bread and butter. We had on another thing about 9 or so rhino stores out in the rurals, very boring, prosaic work. And I will say, I mean, this is a really big project, and all the indications were that this was going to go. He was engaging with us, and we even talked about, you know, how we were going to do it. We were going to engage, obviously, a local architect to submit to council. And so yeah, we went full in with this. And you can see the design hasn't, this is the computer generated model. So the design hasn't changed much from the original sketch. As I said, when we do our concepts, we seem to get them fairly close to what we want. So focusing in from right to left. So this is your retail section. There's parking to the right, retail, coffee shop on the corner there, lots of courtyards, lots of decks, lots of verandas. Lilongwe is quite near the equator, so it's got a very mild climate and very quite warm, temperate. And the courtyards, we were having so much fun with our landscape architect to do the courtyards. This is just looking out down to the playground, different areas where we would bring in different sort of landscaping. In fact, the concept we were looking to align with, which we had to tell him about, was Makaranga, which sadly is also closed down. But that whole garden engagement, you know. This is again more retail here, so a deli, big kitchens for a restaurant that could seat at least 300 people because it links through to the conference center. We did a little bit of spa here, also with courtyard spaces linking through to, so from the right, you've got your link from the restaurant straight through to the conference center. So there's a conference seating, I think, for 300 here and for 100 there, and big boardrooms and smaller boardrooms, and with wraparound verandas and linking spaces. And then we use this space here. So this is a big courtyard space with a big sort of processional roof coming through. The idea being that this massive hall for the 700 guests who all needed to be fed, with a very large industrial kitchen to the side and serveries, etc. This space and this space could be combined because we had beams linking across so that you could put a temporary cover, a canvas cover over here, so that this space here could essentially be used as one space. A lovely porte cochere, sorting out the parking, coming around, dropping the bride off. The bride comes through. Some entrance foyer spaces that could either be closed off, so this could be used separately to that. And then, so the residential was a combination of little rooms for guests and little suites, or like little cottages. So yeah, I mean, we had so much fun with this. We really did. And we thought, okay, well, how are we going to present the 3D for this? Because again, they loved the plan when we described it, but they couldn't understand what it was going to look like. So we thought, okay, well, we modeled this thing up as not going into exactly, we understood how things were going to put together, but not going into the construction detailing of it. So I will play for you the video that we put together. So this is the retail area. And let me just turn the music down a bit. Coming through, more retail and coffee shop, play area. He was very big on the play area. Again, Makaranga's also got that, or had that. Winding around with linking pieces coming through to the restaurant, which we tried to sort of, seating 300 people is quite a big ask, so we divided it up into spaces. Our landscape architect wanted to put in dams and ponds. This is coming through to the conference center, and then around to this very axial space and the courtyard between the two spaces. And then you can see inside the 700 people all sitting down. And then coming around to the back end, the kitchen-y type spaces, which we still wanted to look nice, because you come down past that to look at the residential component in the corner. And then coming around through to, this is the big, the end, the turning circle. Oof, gosh, I hate it when they do. The drop-off place and the processional axis. We wanted to bring in these patterns that we saw. So we combined natural stone, we combined concrete, we combined glass, timber screens, and then this patterned fabric. I'm not quite sure how we would have achieved that. That was for future decisions. That's the little, the spa, not so little. Coming past the deli, and this is the kitchen area. So that's, again, back of house. How do you do back of house that's against the axial driveway? Coming around past the retail, there was going to be a gym on the first floor that would have a male and female section, which would be quite popular amongst the Muslim and the local community there, because they definitely want to keep separate. Okay, we skipped out a bit because the video was too long. Shame. You see that poor guy sitting on this wheelchair. Sometimes with these 3Ds, you look at them and you think, okay. So this is, the idea is that you'd have an indoor or an outdoor wedding. The seating would be around in this amphitheater with the actual ceremony happening on that little island. And then coming through to the residential component. So we had to cut some bits out. and little cottages using the same sort of language as the main building, but far more scaled down, and really speaking to the landscaping, speaking to the vegetation. And then if we sweep past, it's very difficult to do full 3D landscaping proper, because on the plan it shows a lot more of how the planting happens, but when you're trying to put it into your model, it's just, sure, it's absolutely insane.
Monique,
then,
the expressions of the fabric on the wall, is that mosaic?
well, potentially, yes. That's what we would like to do. That's what we would have. So that would be our first prize, yes. We knew we wanted to do it, but it was a case of how do we achieve that? And there were various methods that we could have used. So that one, okay, so everybody loved it. It was just blown away. Client was happy. They showed it to the Department of Tourism. There was all funding happening, all that kind of thing. And then we put in our fee proposal to take it to the next stage. And things went really quiet. Then we got, and we'd gone in quite keen because, geez, I mean, we wanted to get a foot in doing work up North Africa. I mean, who wouldn't? I mean, it's just the opportunity to do a project like this. So we'd gone in really keen with our fees. And then they came back to us and they said, no, they've decided to to get their local architect to take over from here. Please, can we send them the sections and the elevations? So we're like, no, that's the next stage. That's where we've got to engage with your engineers and do detailed. And they said, but haven't you done these already? And we said, no, it's a model. Oh, well, can you just give us your 3D model then? So we're like, no, we can't. So, I mean, and we handed them, we were very generous. We handed them the DWG of the plan, which, and the 3D with we actually did a whole lot of still 3Ds as well. Any architect worth their salt, if they had DWGs of the plan like that, like you've seen, and 3Ds, and the whole thing that you've seen, they would be able to generate it from there. But sure, they fought us on this. No, they demand to get our ArchiCAD model. And we said, no, we're not going to give you our ArchiCAD model. And yeah, so things just kind of went quiet from there. And yeah, that was the big one. That was the big one that got away. And yeah, why the fish? Look at him. He's so gleeful. He's just leaping away gleefully. And yeah, sometimes we think that's what happens with our projects. And yeah, as I said, look, I mean, we take full responsibility for the amount of work that we've done. But when you look at it, as I said, this is a personal reflection. We've done a lot of work that we have either not been paid anything for or been way underpaid. And it's a case of unpacking the why. Why do we get to that? And I don't know the full answer. I think some of it is personal. You know, we get carried away with enthusiasm. We may be too trusting. I'm a glass half full person, which drives my husband insane. So I keep thinking, no, it'll all come right. It'll all come right. It'll be fine. And but some of it is, I can understand when a developer is looking at a piece of ground and they don't know what they can do on that ground until we as architects put something together. Okay, this is how much FAR, this is how much, and we always do. We start off with These are the calculations. This is the spatial planning, some blocks on a plan with some parking. Doesn't take us long to do. This is what you can do. But somehow we often get drawn into just one more step. So, maybe, I don't know, it's like some sort of compulsion. I mean, what do you do? I have a lot of young people coming to me at school level, wanting to study architecture, and that you reflect back on why you did. I mean, what do you do when you are um, intensely analytical, but with the drive to create? You become an architect and hope your sanity survives. But it is that compulsion, I think, to create. But we get drawn in, and it's always such a reasonable argument. Yes, it's on the point of, yes, it's going to happen. The signature is just waiting to be put on the page, and then the other thing. So I think it is something we keep on hoping that it's going to come right and just doing that one bit extra that we get asked for. But the thing that often happens is, and I think it's something that's come about with technology and the ability to generate really amazing 3Ds. I mean, you can see from that model that you can see it. And so I think clients have really become spoiled, because it always starts with a sketch and then they can't visualize it. Please, can we just do a quick 3D? And now we've heard this, I don't know how many times. Can you just do a quick 3D so that I can see what it looks like? And they don't understand. And we explain and we explain, and they don't understand. You don't just do a quick 3D. You can't pull something out of nothing, unless, of course, you chat GPT. But you've got to design the thing first. You've got to actually design it, and only then can you generate a 3D. And so we often get sucked into this. But yeah, I'm going to, I'm actually quite nicely on time. That's good. So I'm going to end off there. But I want this to be an initiator for discussion about the situation. I mean, I don't think I'm the only one. I've probably gone OTT on everything, but it's a real thing. It's the elephant in the room. How much work we as architects do without being paid.
Monique, thank you so much. Well, fortunately, our platform is not about attacking each other. That, oh no, you did this and that. You did that much risk work and all that. I think you are really starting a topic that, as people who love the craft of this, people who love design and are in the architectural business, we always have to grapple with. So thank you so much for that. Uh, Before we get into it, Monica, I wanted to just find out your insight in what you've experienced on the house. We're not QSs, and we work with the client brief from the 1.5 million that came from the contractors versus 4 million. I just wanted to find out your experience, in other projects, how you've countered that, because your design, your flair is very rooted on pragmatism, very rooted on meaning. So it's not, you're not very airy fairy, but budgets are budgets. How do you counter that in other projects?
Well, okay, a lot of our work is done with a full team of consultants. So our sort of bread and butter work, Massmart is one of our clients, and you don't breathe until a QS has put a price to it, generally speaking, or somebody's got a budget there, and you've got to fit into that budget. But on other projects, we've got another project that we're in the middle of, And it's also a private client, and she's got a piece of land and she wants to do multiple sort of entry-level units on it. And we did a really, really good scheme. We've managed to fit on quite a lot of units, maximizing the site, balancing the parking, all of those sort of things. But we insisted, we've learned our lesson now. We insisted that she engage with the QS to get a costing on it. And again, it was somewhat surprising for her, but it really then, I mean, again, we have gone, because we needed to get an AMAFA application in, we have gone quite far, but again, we've been paid. We agreed on the phase one, and we've insisted on being paid. So at least we have some essence of the reality. And I wish, but again, it's that double-edged sword, because with the house that we did, we did keep saying to them, why don't we get a QS to cost this? But then they look at the cost of the QS and they go, no. So it's almost like, and I think going forward we would be a lot more firm with clients. And I know hugely successful practitioners like Sally Adams, and I think that's the way she approaches something. I'm not going to go ahead until we get a costing involved. I mean, it's a double-edged sword, because we wouldn't have taken that project, to the extent that we did. And I still think that, it really would be a good project. But yeah, the only way to do it is to actually partner, to engage with people with costing experience and actually insist on it up front. Because then you can do the sketch, and then you don't go much further than that.
Yeah, insisting on a QS. I think that's important. I've realized this because you could use the ACOM guide per square meter. Then at the end of the day, when you're off, then you now have to account to the client why you did not include services. And this and that just come naturally to cost consultants. Thanks, Monique. And then the other one is the CCI cafeteria, and how you ended up having your design use, but then you sidelined.
Yeah, I'm still smarting from that, and because the client really, I mean, the kids nowadays, they would use the word ghosting. We were ghosted. We were literally ghosted. I'm still of the opinion of writing a letter to them and saying, you know what, pay up. We did work and you have used it. The thing is that they changed it enough. They didn't, I mean, you could see how much effort and involvement and design work we put into it. They used certain components of it and they watered it down. So I don't have the appetite for a legal battle with them. And, I think it's still worth writing them a letter and saying, come on, guys, fair is fair. But I have a feeling that they won't see it that way. So it's, do you fight for it at the risk of your own pockets and time and sanity? Or do you just go, okay, you know what, karma will get you another time, whether it ever does. But yeah, that's why, as I said, I'm putting it all out there and saying these are the right or wrong decisions we made, because some of our most exciting work has been done at risk, and I think that's partly because maybe we have some freedom. We feel a sense of freedom in our design, because it's like, how can we excite the client? How can we put together something that really, really excites the client? and actually hooks that job and brings it into our office. But it's such a balancing act, and honestly, I don't think that we've got it right. But I'd be very curious to see and very interested to see how other people have approached this successfully, because it hurts us. It really does. I mean, if I'd been paid for all the work that if we'd been paid for all the work that we'd done, I would not be
We'll be needing
driving.
a helicopter pad at the institute.
No, not quite, but I wouldn't be driving a 20-year-old Outlander. To be honest.
Okay, thank you so much, Monique, for sharing your experiences like that. Colleagues, may I please have your input, questions, comments, if you wish to share your similar experiences? And I completely understand, Monique, when you talk about a client, a new client that you are trying to rope in, because sometimes you could be doing a building type that you've never done before. So the fact that you've done so much, it's not exactly the building that he wants, and you think, okay, let me just whip a quick sketch for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and see what happens from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So there's a combination of new clients trying to rope them in, and actually get it to be a project, especially with less experienced clients. And then there's the other clients who are trusted clients who you've done other work for before. And so you trust them when they say, oh, please go further. Please can I
Do a
see what
hand
you're
raise
doing?
on this thing.
That's called reactions. It should
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then they let you down, and it's extremely painful.
Any comments, any questions, colleagues?
It's a deathly silence.
Ever?
Neil has Hill here. I would. It's a
Okay,
very,
you can go
very.
in, Neil, then Ivor after.
Hi,
Go
everybody.
ahead, Neil.
This, as a sole practitioner and having been in practice 40-something years, this is a very, very important subject, and I'm very glad Monique has put this together. I would propose, and in the KZNIA, that maybe we can have an hour's meeting with a group of interested parties, as I would certainly be, to have a across-the-table discussion. It's far easier than trying to do it on a Teams or Zoom call. But this is a vitally important subject, and I think the cross ideas from experiences and how you go forward. Over the last 20 years, I've taken certain actions to try and mitigate these things happening, because I believe I've been very badly abused. But by having cross discussion, cross fertilization will help all of us. And I've got a son who's an architect in Holland, and I would to take far too long here to try and explain what goes on in Europe, but it's completely different over there. And it's all involved with our country, our position, our economy, etc. But I would really propose that we arrange to have an hour and a half's cross-fertilization meeting. I think it'd help us very greatly. Thank you.
I think
Thanks.
that's an excellent point, Neil. Thanks.
Monique.
Ivor?
Hi, Monique. We've all had this experience, so we know that. And following Neil's point, after just over 50-odd years of practice, we've been through many of those situations. But I think that where it all comes from is that, to a large degree, architects are naive in the context of setting up a proper appointment situation when you are taken seriously enough to actually put in front of a client before you actually start working on it, being properly appointed with proper terms of appointment. And in the case of where they in fact, abuse you by doing what they did to you in taking over the work and not paying you for it, there is a need to be able to threaten them with the ability to take them to court. The choice to make a finding, take it to court, is obviously a difficult one. But I think that as architects, we are design mad. We want to get on with designing things, and we actually ignore the realities of when you get appointed, that you actually have a proper appointment before you actually go too far, or any work on it, in fact, that we tend to think, well, that'll scare them off and therefore lose the project. And I think that that's where this working at risk actually starts. I think it's one of the areas which, even with having an appointment, we had a situation where we were working with a very big project in Dubai, and we had the full contracts in place and everything like that. And they turned around and took on another firm to do the work, and said they weren't going to pay us, although they'd paid us the initial start on it. But they owed us the whole team, a substantial sum of money. And we did not go away. We actually got lawyers who were able to take it on the basis of a commission where they would win part of the fee that we would eventually be getting, and that actually worked, and we eventually did get paid. Okay, 3 years later, but it wasn't that painful to actually go through that process. But I think it starts off by not having proper appointments. You don't go to a lawyer and start just taking on a case without you signing up or acknowledging that you'll provide a service and that there's a fee which will emanate from that service.
No, you're 100% right. It's about exposure. And with that Lilongwe project, we had a full-on contract with them, even a client architect agreement that was poured over and everything. And our appointment was to do a master plan. But a master plan is a case of, as I said, that's why we take responsibility for how far we went with it. What is a master plan? So a master plan is a bit of a vague thing. And it was their decision, because all along they'd said, no, you are the architect, you are the architect. But when we put our fee proposal together, they got frightened away. So there wasn't anything that we could go after them in terms of, from a legal perspective. And then there was the little house, again, full fee proposal and agreed and everything, and we got paid, but there was a discrepancy between what their eyes were bigger than their budget, and that often happens. And then there's also there's the trusted clients, the trusted clients, or going in as a turnkey, turnkey project. So, but you're 100% right, and we are aware of that, but we somehow still get sucked in.
All right. Thanks, Ivor. Ken, I've noted you mind design Angela.
Thanks, Gura. Monique, yes, there we go. We all suffer from this thing. Don't worry, you're not alone. But having said that, we are I suppose, an independent breed of people. We like to think that we have something special to contribute. We're a little bit on the dilettante side. And one of the problems, I believe, that we have in this country is that far too many of us decide that we need to be single practitioners or small practices. And I'm afraid numbers just count in this part of the world. And in fact, all over the world. I worked in the UK, I worked in France, I worked in Australia. But having said all of that, how do you get over it? I believe that we have far too little protection from our institute and from our registration council. The registration council, I fully understand, is there to protect the public. But by abusing architects and particularly smaller practices, we're actually doing a disservice to the public. Therefore, I think SACAP need to wake up and need to understand that architects need a lot more protection in this whole process. And yes, I was absolutely right. We need to be more switched on. We need to be more businesslike, certainly. And one of the problems is, I believe, is just a matter of size, scale. Size matters, as they say. But where we what do we do? We all want to do good, our skills, our training, and so on and so forth. And therefore, we do get involved in what is called at-risk work. But again, I think our method of charging and payment really needs serious review. You know, we need to learn lessons from the advertising world. We need to learn lessons from the engineers. We're not doing enough discussion and talking to them about this very problem. We get abused. Anyway, you've had a wonderful time, wonderful experience with these projects. And at the end of the day, you have to say, so what? What have I learned from this? What have I gained? What have I lost? And that's the way it is in life. But thank you very much, Monique. Well done.
True, thanks.
Thank you, Ken. Mandisa?
Thank you. Greetings, everyone. Just want to also congratulate Monique for staying in the profession for this long. And I thoroughly enjoyed the Lilongwe project, you know, as much as it came with its own losses, but I'm sure you really enjoyed that project. I looked at its scale. It's a massive project, and the ambition that you expressed there. I loved the contemporary look and how you use the local fabrics. I love that color and the combination of texture in that particular project. So it really stood out for me. And also when you were playing the video, it just feels beautiful and it looks beautiful. As much as it had a concept stage, it looks so resolved. So I enjoyed that. And most of the projects that you presented, they have a contemporary flair. So I really enjoyed the projects, but the Lilongwe one stands out for me. Thanks. That's my comment. And everything that comes with being in the practice, we all know we are bruised. But looking at that project just makes me feel good, whether it came with money or not. It just made me feel good. Thank you.
Fulfilling
Thank you so much,
indeed, yeah.
Mandisa.
Thanks, Mandisa. Angela?
Good morning, Skuro, Monique, and everybody else. And thank you so much for that presentation. I agree completely with what Ivor and Ken have brought to the conversation. And I just wanted to suggest as well that, you know, the reality is that infrastructure, as opposed to, say, the other professions, doctors, lawyers, etc., is such a big investment, but it's a lump sum investment and a very long-term investment. And so I think that a lot of, you know, and that's sort of, I suppose, where clients become sort of over enthusiastic or unrealistic. They don't know what they're getting themselves into in the beginning of a project. And I'm just wondering whether there's a need to relook at the way that architects, what their offerings are, and whether there's a need or an acknowledgement to identify that feasibility stage that clients are needing, you know, that even before this becomes a project, you know, I think that we're so project orientated. That's the only training that we've ever had, is from the beginning to end of a project in quite a linear process. But there is a lot of work that is required to allow clients to understand what it is, like Monique says, you know, what does that site require? What could their budget stretch to, etc. And looking at how we can assist in that feasibility stage, and it's sort of along the lines of what Monique's been trying to do in terms of, you know, providing master plans and that sort of thing. But it probably comes along with actually re-looking at what our offerings are and how we can structure our fees in line with our market, and that maybe our fees in the way that it is at the moment is just not suitable to our market anymore. Thank you.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Angela.
good point. And I think it's definitely something that needs further discussion. I mean, we do have that stage one, which is a feasibility, but again, our clients are not able to visualize. That's one of the big problems. They're not able to visualize at all, and then they've been spoilt because they see the glossy, pretty images, and then that's what they want. And it's a real issue. But yeah, we need to do some serious thinking and some serious restructuring, and it needs to be profession wide, really.
Thanks, Monique. Kevin?
Yeah, morning all. I'm on leave today, as you can see. Thanks, Monique, for your talk. I'm quite disappointed, I've got to say, that when I heard the title, The One That Got Away, I thought it was going to be about fly fishing and fishing, and that you were going to show us another means of making money. But anyway, thanks very much for your talk. I think Ivy used the term, one of you used the term earlier about in the beginning. And I think that our training at university is one that is such that you train to want to be loved. You want to put the work on the wall that they're going to love at the end of the day. And so our business sense, and that and leaving after 5 years of study, we don't really consider that. We just want to be able to have a client that loves the work we're doing. It matches us getting the A+ at the end of the day. And that is all important to us. So out the window goes, and Mandisa will let you know that you have to have a contract before you can do anything. And that's quite an important thing. And the other thing to do is when you read the scale of fee things, have a look in it and see that there's a clause in there that talks about standard services. And it's important to put that in your contract as well, because beyond standard services, stages 1 through 6, is the fact of marketing drawings and all of that. So just be careful what you put down and what you claim. But if you have the term standard drawings and then they're wanting you to carry on doing marketing renders and whatever else, that's an additional fee that you can claim. Lastly, SAIA has an excellent document that if you're a SAIA member, called Deferred Payments. And that's we've used before. And you sign that with the clients if they, in particular, working with developers, because they might not have the money up front. But this going to someone else at the end of the day with your ideas just isn't on. And so if they sign this contract document that is under the SAIA Deferred Payments heading, you can get them legally to pay when the project goes ahead. Well done, Monique. Keep it up, as I said earlier. Thanks very much, Guru.
Thanks, Kevin. And wow, I think I've just had a complete light bulb moment. But you're saying that we just want to be loved. I mean, I think you've hit it right on the head because you want to do these schemes, and yeah, our clients love our work. It's just they don't always go ahead with it. And I think you really might have a point there. And I think that speaks back to our education. I think we really do need more business training. I mean, I studied to be an architect. That's drawing and detailing and designing and all those wonderful things. But a lot of my time nowadays is spent running a business. And I'm not trained for that at all. Not even slight. I feel like I'm flying by the seat of my pants half the time, most of the time. And the other important thing, thanks to that deferment of payment document, I'm definitely going to ferret it out. Because that would be extremely valuable. One of the projects I didn't show is a very small little site that we've done. I don't know, it's an awkward, funny little site, again, in the Romead Business Park. And I don't know how many countless little sketches and concepts and space planning we've done for it. And then eventually somebody did buy it. But again, to buy it, they wanted to, the buyer wanted to ensure that what he could get on the site, because it's such an awkward, funny little site, 400 square meters of warehouse and some offices. And he had a very definite budget. And then we were given a brief. So we designed to the brief, and we had some costings involved. He wanted a turnkey solution. So again, we were in with the builder. We did some costings, and then he says, "Oh no, doesn't align with our budget." So then we tweaked it some more, and we did. So there was one proposal for the budget and one proposal for their brief, and then the idea is we'd find a middle ground somewhere. And then he presented to the board, and everything went ahead. And I'd said to his regional person, we were doing this at risk. That means that we get, if it goes ahead, we get the project. But then the big guy, the boss, he bought the property and then immediately said, "Oh no, he wants 3 different quotes. Can we provide a quote for our fees?" And we'd already provided what our fees would be. So we were upfront about, this is what our fees will be. These are the costs. It includes the professional fees. So we were quite outraged by this. He went to 2 other architects and told them to do a design and get it costed without a proper brief, because the brief was something that we developed with them. And to this date, the thing's just become moribund. It's just sort of sitting there, and he hasn't decided to build, and he hasn't chosen an architect or anything like that. But we were literally outraged, which we expressed to the regional person, our liaison person, and he says, "Yes, I know, I'm sorry, but this is what the boss was wanting to do." And if we'd had that deferred payment thing, I would have definitely got them to sign that, because we were working with them with the idea that if they purchased that land, we would be the architects. It stands to reason. You can't take our design and then go to 2 other architects and ask them to put a price to it. No, it's absolutely not acceptable. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to ferret that document out. Thank you.
Just 2 more things, Skura, if I may. I don't see any other hands. But remember that there's the Copyright Act. We have copyright over our drawings. If you look at the Act, you'll see that drawings fall under copyright as well. So people can't take your drawings and use them. We have a project at the moment that I've looked on the marketing project we worked on. We looked on the marketing online, and another architect has taken our exact drawing and put it on their title block with only a bit of color added to the plan. So there's copyright that I'll let you know how that goes forward. And the other is that you don't have to give your client the CAD drawings whatsoever. When you go to exclusive books, you buy the book, the print copy, and you don't buy the files that they typed up and putting the book together. It is a Copyright Act. The council, the registrar, in fact, has said this previously, and that is the rule. You don't have to give through your drawing files. So remember that. Thanks again, Skura, and thanks, Monique.
Very insightful, Kevin. Thank you so much for that. And yeah, colleagues, any other comments or questions?
If I can just interject concerning copyright and CAD drawings and things, in my agreements, I specifically exclude the issue of electronic CAD and 3D modeling as specifically belonging to me. Because I've had instances of clients, and historically clients, and also other architects coming to me for advice on the matter, where, and this can also happen some years later, where a client contacts you or during the project and insists that you issue all those CAD drawings. The hard copies, the PDFs, the actual work, the detailing, the sketches, the stuff that's put together to put the building together on site is what they are paying for. They're not paying for the skills and the intellect that actually goes into the electronic and digital formation of that work. And I advise everybody to put that in as a clause that the CAD electronic files are specifically excluded. However, and I have negotiated this, if a client insists that he still wants it and he's amenable, isn't threatening a court case, then they must pay for it. If it's a 100 million rand building or 50 million rand building, for him using your CAD electronic drawings to give to another architect is then going to save him 100 or 200,000. So it'd be quite reasonable, for instance, to charge the guy 20 or 30,000 rand. I've also had interaction with other architects, including Kevin, where I've done some alterations to buildings, large buildings, where they've had the CAD files and have either negotiated or have been able to get those drawings on the basis of trust. But the bottom line is that the CAD electronic drawings are our ultimate intellect. Thank you, guys.
Good point, Neil. Thank you. Monique, thank you so much, I think, for starting the discussion. And I think that it actually is necessary going forward. I think arming each other in terms of how we run our businesses is always very important.
Thank you. Yeah, no, thanks, Guru, and thank you for putting these practice breakfasts together. I think you're definitely the unsung hero here. It's an amazing forum for people to share thoughts, ideas, and personal journeys. So thank you so much.
Thank you. So Neil, I think your idea was really good to do a forum to follow up with this. We know that SAIA protects, I think, the public, but somewhere in there, in terms of regulating the profession, we definitely have to have a say, because they publish the fee gazette, for example. So somewhere in the middle, the institute and SAIA have to meet. So we definitely will take that idea forward. And thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Wish everyone a good weekend. See you on the next one.
Thanks, Guru. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Monique.
Thanks, guys.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thank you, Monique.
Thank
Bye.
you. Thanks so much.